In IBESS Environmental Value Systems Part 3, we will examine more closely decisions made by different environmental value systems, the ecocentrists, the anthropocentrists, and the technocentrists. The significant idea is that there is a wide spectrum of environmental value systems, each with its own premise and implications. How would ecocentrists approach decision-making? Could we characterize the decisions of ecocentrists? While it's important for you to be able to generalize, there is a wide spectrum of environmental value systems, each with its own premises and implications. Ecocentrists will focus on the connectedness of all species, the spirituality in nature. Ecocentrists believe in the bio-rights for all species. Ecocentrists would find ways to kill fewer animals and would decide to value the protection of a species over the immediate needs of people. Ecocentrists would favor policies that reduce population, set aside vast tracts of land, and reduce the impact of people. Ecocentrists would display self-restraint and decide to have a low level of materialism, a low level of consumption. Ecocentrists would favor global citizenship, self-sufficient societies. Ecocentrists do not view the world with people at the top of the ecological pyramid, while instead viewing people as just one of many species, all equal in terms of their position on Earth. This is the ego versus the eco approaches to environmental values. The circle of life versus the singular flow of resources towards humans, with the associated production of waste that the Earth cannot absorb. Ecocentrists would make decisions that serve to reduce their environmental impact. People? What people? Other species cannot speak for themselves. Thus, in a curious, ironic twist, people must act in order to protect the rights of other species. People must decide to reduce their impact on other species. How might we characterize the decisions made by anthropocentrists? Anthropocentrists see themselves as managers of the earth, stewards of the earth, using government to legislate environmental protection. Anthropocentrists would make decisions that included policies aimed at the needs of people, especially the poor. Anthropocentrists would favor raising taxes to inhibit the overuse of resources. Anthropocentrists would favor regulations and legislation that encourages environmental protection or reduces population growth. Anthropocentrists would favor the development of parks and reserves. The anthropocentrist would support the hunting of tuna to provide food for people, but the anthropocentrist would demand that government set strict limits on the number of tuna caught and demand that the tuna be caught in the most humane way possible. Agriculture can have a large negative impact on the environment. Anthropocentrists would support big business farming, but ask that government regulation prevent environmental damage. Increasing the biodiversity on the farm is an anthropocentric view, as it improves aspects of productivity and reduces the environmental impact of the industrial farm. Biodiversity on the farm is anthropocentric, leaning toward ecocentric. Remember, there's a spectrum of environmental value systems. The technocentric view is that technology and more technology will solve environmental problems. This is an image of industrial agriculture. Industrial agriculture has a huge environmental impact. Technocentrists would argue that all the problems can be solved while maintaining the high levels of productivity. Building a dam, such as the Hoover Dam seen here, provides water for irrigation, water for household use, and a huge lake for recreation. But consider the environmental damage to the river and the valley that once was. Technocentrists have no issue with technology controls or manipulating ecosystems to provide increased resources. Nuclear technology provides electric power, but what are the environmental consequences? Technocentrists would argue that scientific research and new technology would make nuclear power safe. Technocentrists believe that new generations of people will come up with new ideas to solve the world's problems. Technocentrists believe that scientific research will generate new ideas to solve the world's problems. The technocentrist is an optimist, a cornucopian, believing that there is an abundance of resource. Technocentrists would support free market economies and capitalism. They would support technological fixes, pro-growth policies, people as a resource, more minds to solve problems. The technocentrist believes that resources are endlessly abundant. So what is your position on the spectrum of environmental values? What is your environmental value system? Here is a photograph of Earth from space. James Lovelock referred to Earth as Gaia. He suggested that Earth was unique among all the planets in that it is self-regulating as a system due to the presence of life, and he referred to this self-regulating system as Gaia. So in an attempt to probe your unique centrism, I ask, what do you see here? Do you see a forest of beautiful trees as well as all the species living within the system? Do you see beauty that deserves to be protected at all costs? Or do you see a beauty that warrants allowing human visitors, hiking trails, campsites, etc.? Does this forest require government protection? Should it be designated as a national park? Or, as you look at this forest, do you see trees that would provide lumber that could be used to build homes for people? Do you imagine all the jobs that would be provided by the industry charged with removing the trees for human use? What do you see here? Beauty to be untouched by people? Or do you see beauty that includes recreation despite the costs that come along with people, trash, and accidental contact with delicate species, and anchor damage from boats? Or do you see food? Turtle soup? What do you see here? A beautiful farm, a pastoral setting, a place you've always dreamed of living? Or do you see a managed landscape far from the native ecosystem that existed before people arrived? Do you see all the food that agriculture can provide to people? If you answered yes to any of these questions that I've posed here, you may be considered an anthropocentrist. The ecocentrist might disagree with a farm like this. What do you see in these rice paddies? Do you see a wonderful pastoral landscape? Are you romanticizing possible travel opportunities in a developing nation? Or do you see a highly managed landscape? Imagine the effort that has gone into changing the face of the land. What was the original ecosystem? The ecosystem that is no longer? Or do you see food that provides for numerous families? As we head toward the end of the movie, let's apply some environmental values to solutions of some environmental issues. The first environmental issue is climate change. Climate change is occurring because of human activities that increase the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, particularly carbon dioxide. As humans burn fossil fuels for transportation, for energy, for production of food, for the production of goods to be sold in the marketplace, carbon dioxide is released into the atmosphere. The increase in atmospheric carbon dioxide is resulting in a higher average temperature across the Earth. On the left is an ecocentric solution: ride or walk to work instead of driving. On the right is a technocentric solution: large mirrors that reflect solar energy away from the Earth. Pollution is an environmental issue, and there are many forms of pollution, a number of which we will study in this course. In these images, we see plastic pollution on the left and urban air pollution, smog, on the right. Reducing our use of plastic or recycling plastic would be ecocentric solutions. Using public transportation would combine technocentric and ecocentric values. The technology of underground subway systems, in combination with ecocentric decisions that people make about how they lead their lives, would better serve the environment. Bricks made of recycled plastic to be used for building would be a technocentric approach to reducing plastic pollution. Smokestack scrubbers and catalytic converters would be technocentric approaches to reducing urban air pollution. Water availability is an environmental issue. Many people in the world do not have access to clean water because they live in a region with water scarcity or because water has been polluted. Using less water is an ecocentric solution, a decision that you and I can make about how we lead our lives. Treating sewage water here would be a solution governments could implement with ecocentric decision-making in combination with technocentric engineering. Building dams on rivers would be a technocentric solution, although there are significant environmental costs to the building of dams. In agriculture, drip irrigation conserves water. This would be a technocentric solution. Growing sufficient food for a growing world population is an environmental issue. A technocentric solution to the issue of growing sufficient food would be to grow food in three-dimensional space within a lighted building, or to irrigate deserts, as can be seen in this image, or to replace rainforest with pasture for growing crops. Hopefully, I've just provoked some emotion in you. Hopefully, you've just said to yourself, hold on here. These are solutions, but there are problems with these solutions. Are we really going to use electricity to grow the world's food? From where would a desert get its water? Are we interested in losing the diversity of a rainforest for food production? Loss of biodiversity is an environmental issue. Human activities have caused a mass extinction. Protecting species and ecosystems with national parks would be ecocentric. Decisions made by governments to create legal boundaries around an ecosystem is an ecocentric decision within the context of a social system. We can monitor species with aerial surveillance or radio collars. Now, both of these are technocentric approaches to protecting species, and zoos would be an anthropocentric solution to protecting species. Sometimes we have to make decisions about what's best for the planet and what makes sense. Does it make sense to throw away technology for the abacus? Okay, so we buy the computer, but could we find ways to reduce our need for material goods, reduce our energy consumption? And it's something to think about. The politics of green can be a powerful social force in decision-making. The politics of green is a powerful social force. Is environment-friendly tourism really possible? Or will tourist dollars actually save species? Your responses to these questions should help you define whether you are an ecocentrist or an anthropocentrist. Here's a cartoon that makes fun of people and the compromises that occur in grappling with a plural society. They had to cut down all the trees to print all the bailout money needed to create green jobs to save the environment. Sometimes societies don't quite get it right, but plural democratic societies are typically self-correcting. Here's a cartoon that pokes fun at people's unwillingness to change. Sometimes people want to find environmental disaster, even with the best of solutions. In considering environmental values, there is often tension between more economically developed countries and less economically developed countries. In this cartoon, the man, representing the more economically developed country, is demanding the corn to produce fuel for his car. The question is, how are people going to use the farmland they have? Food or fuel? What are the priorities? And how does wealth influence the decisions we make? You can see the same tension in this cartoon, where this man, representing a less economically developed country, needs the wood to cook tonight's dinner or heat his home today. The man in the car, representing a more economically developed country, has the wealth to burn fossil fuels and thus the luxury to promote protection of the environment. As the world becomes more and more degraded, what we see as nature, what we see as beautiful, is put at risk. Do you want to live in a world that's no more diverse than crows, sparrows, cats, and dogs? What do you now see as beautiful that 100 years ago would have been unthinkable? What beauty do you find in the polluted urban city in which you live? Do we see what we want to see? Does the selfie become more important than the experience? Do you experience nature, or do you just say you do? Is an urban landscape a beautiful sight? Do you see nature here? How do you respond emotionally to this image? Is it inspiring or depressing? And that brings us to the end of IBESS Environmental Values, Part 3.